You Office Services presents Voices of Startups. Learn from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
So first of all, thank you for joining the podcast. So Nabeel, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell everyone kind of who you are and what is it you do?
Sure. Thanks, Aman. Thank you for having me. So my name's Nabeel. I'm currently a real estate agent. I do residential sales in Greater Vancouver and around the North Shore and downtown. So I've been licensed now for about 5 years. It's kind of crazy how the timing works. I got licensed in July of about 2015. So I was quite young at the time, but time flies. So yeah, it's been about 5 years in the business so far.
How old are you?
I'm 25 at the time, so I just had my mid-quarter century birthday earlier this
Wow.
year. I know, crazy.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And what kind of got you into the whole real estate section?
That's a good question. Yeah, real estate, it was always a career that I wanted to be in from a young age. I just at that time I didn't really know, what part of real estate I wanted to be in, whether it was, working with rentals or the property management side of things. So I didn't really have a clear indication of where I wanted to be in real estate, but I did know that I wanted to be in the real estate segment. Um, and so I think from a young age, I always really enjoyed going to open houses with my parents and kind of seeing how the process was so exciting, exhilarating, all the emotions from a young age. I caught on to that. So that's kind of why initially, as I got older and I didn't really know what career I wanted to fall into. I went for real estate.
Did you move a lot as a kid?
I did not actually. I think I only moved twice. So once was from Africa where I was born. We moved to Canada and then stayed at one house for a few years, and then that's when my parents. We were actually renting when we came, and then my parents decided to buy their house, and that was just that one move, and that's it. And so I've been at this house ever since.
And for someone who's kind of maybe looking to get into real estate or being a realtor, I guess I know there's educational requirements. I think you have to do a test through UBC.
Yes, that's correct. So you do an exam through UBC. It's pretty straightforward. It took me about between 6 to 8 months. You just take a course and then you have to write an exam. But now, since the time I took it about 5 years ago, a lot has changed because the barriers to entry were so easy, and
Mhm.
so you could anyone could virtually be a realtor. But nowadays everything's changed. So I think now they actually want you to have a bachelor's degree, if I'm not mistaken, and if you have that, and then you just have your English grade 12, you need a certain percentage, about 70% or over, and you can take the exam.
Okay, so you still have to do you still have to do that original course, or you just have to have some sort of degree and then you can just do it?
You have to actually take the course as well. So the degree is now a requirement.
Okay, interesting. I wonder do you know why that is?
I think just because they had so many, I guess so many agents, so many realtors, so many people who actually wanted to be realtors, and the barrier to entry was just so slim.
I guess when exactly was the real estate boom happening?
I'd say it happened right after about 20 when the Olympics came here. That was obviously when Vancouver got put on the map globally. And then I'd say later on that's where kind of the boom happened.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is the real estate boom, the cause for so many people wanting to join in.
Absolutely.
So people just assumed it's super easy. Everyone's pouring money into real estate.
Exactly.
Let's
You
hop in.
get you get rich overnight. You get your real estate license, and you're a rich man
Yeah.
overnight. That was the one liner there that everyone got hooked on. So
And was that in some way actual fact? Like, could you actually just jump in, join, get a listing, and sell it?
in some ways, yes, but in most ways, I would say definitely not. Um, Obviously, we'll get into it a bit later, but you have to kind of create your own luck and hard work that will get you those listings.
How did you start? Like, what was your first? I guess are they called agencies?
Yeah, agency. So brokerages. I started at Remax, which I'm sure everyone knows what Remax is. So I started there and I joined Remax because there was an older mentor that I joined, and he decided to take me under his wing. So I joined him at Remax, and for me, the first year was a lot of learning. To be honest, I didn't really a lot of learning of the business and how the business works for the first year, and just really shadowing my mentor and how he deals with his clients through certain transactions was really majority of my first year in the business.
Nice. And where does that lead you now? Are you still with him?
No, now I'm not with him anymore. I actually, after 2 years, I had 2 years with him, and then I joined a team at a company called Angel Hosman Associates. So they're West Vancouver, primarily West Vancouver brokerage. They specialize in luxury real estate. Um, and so I joined them about 2 years ago now, and since then we've had it's been a good ride with them, just being kind of like a back end guy to a team of three agents, and we had a good last 2 years, doing about over 100 million in sales.
Wow. So what exactly do you mean by back end?
So back end would be, I was the guy doing all the marketing work, just kind of facilitating. When you get a listing, do all the paperwork and just make sure
Mhm.
everything's on point. Just facilitating the whole process.
What kind of things do you do for, because you're in the luxury market, and that means what, 5 million plus or above that?
Yeah, majority of our clients would be basically dealing with, let's say, between the 5 and 7 million dollar range, and then mostly like 10 plus.
So in terms of marketing, what changes from if you were doing condos and you know more affordable houses or regular houses and to the 5-7 million dollar houses in terms of marketing? What changes for that?
For me, that's actually really interesting because that was such a big eye opener when I jumped from going to Remax to Angel Hosman and jumping into the luxury market, because it's just such a change of service. I do believe that every property at the end of the day deserves the same attention. I've always believed by that, but I mean, when you have a 10 or 20 million dollar house, now you're throwing parties, you're doing catered events, you're bringing in, luxury designers. You're really trying to find that clientele to buy that house. So I think it requires a much more strategy in the marketing and really pinpointing where your buyer is going to come from, because you're dealing with just a different segment and price point.
And how does that work for you in terms of buyers? Do you find a lot of them are local? Are they foreign buyers? Because I know there's that whole thing about the foreign buyers tax and foreign buyers coming up here and driving up all the prices. Um, how does foreign buyers play into this?
It definitely plays a big impact. We've had a lot of, obviously, buyers that have came over from China in the past few years. So yeah, we did have a lot of Chinese buyers that came over, but there is also a lot of movement within the market. Meaning, you have a lot of people who sell their house on the west side and then move over to West Vancouver, and vice versa. People who sell in West Vancouver and then go and buy an expensive house on the west side. So there's a lot of movement inside the market as well.
In terms of pay structure, um, how does that work when you're a part of a team?
That's a good question. I'd say every team is different, just kind of based on what I guess the leaders decide to structure. In most cases, I'd assume, that agent, in my case, I did my own deals and I got my own share, but then at the same time, I would help the team do their deals, and I get a little bonus from that too, which is always nice. And then you get to also learn from that deal.
So, Nabil, what exactly excites you the most about being a real estate agent?
There's a lot of things, um, but I'd say I stick to one thing that is honestly the foundation of the whole reason why I got into real estate. And I think for me, it's just helping people through, I would say, the biggest decision in your life. So everyone can buy things at certain points in their lives, but when you buy a house, it's definitely like, this is something that you're going to pay the next 30 years for. It's everything. So I think that as a realtor, if when someone decides that you're the guy they choose, or you're the person they choose to facilitate this transaction. It definitely means a lot, and it means that they really put all their trust in you, and so you just have to be there to get the job done, and be a part of the whole process, from the beginning to the very end.
And what is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
The worst piece of advice, honestly, I think just people who just think, I'd say patience is very important in anything. Whether you're running your own business, whether you want to lose 10 pounds, I think you have to have patience. And I feel like, I get told a lot that, oh, you've been in the business for 5 years and you're not a superstar yet. So, I really think that no one's an overnight success in a year, and so patience. When people tell me that you don't need patience, I think that that's probably the worst advice that I've gotten.
In terms of current projects, do you have any kind of big ones underway right now?
We are working on a few, actually, kind of in the covers. I won't touch on all of them, but there's a few. There's actually a project that we're working on, which is, it's more of like a I'd say like a subdivision. So it's kind of a bigger project of a few homes.
Do those usually sell to developers?
Yeah, so there's different ways. At this point, this developer has already acquired the land, and then so, we weren't a part of that, but now we're going to be a part of helping him kind of coordinate the project and come to market.
Is real estate investing something that you're in currently, or something that you might be getting into in the future?
At the moment, I'm not currently in the market, but I'd really like to get in the market, in the near future. It's something that has always, enticed me.
With the whole coronavirus thing going on right now, I assume the market's reacting to that just like the stock market.
Absolutely. I would say that we haven't taken as big of a hit yet, as a stock market, but I think that, it's gonna play its part. So I think day by day, as things go on, the real estate market is taking definitely a hit. It's not taking a hit, but it's just on pause. Everything's just in slow mo. Everything's on pause. Like, literally, people have just clicked the pause button. Someone who wanted to buy a few weeks ago has now said, "Hey, you know what? I can't buy right now, or I don't want to buy right now until all this goes away." And vice versa. Some sellers who wanted to sell, all of a sudden, hey, I don't know who's coming into my house, who could have the virus. So certain things like that. It's all a fear game, right? So people just want to put the button on pause and wait till all of this whole thing plays out.
So if there was someone who was maybe thinking about getting into the market, and did manage to secure the financing for it, would now be a good time to move, or would you suggest to exercise some caution and just wait it out?
Kind of where we're at right now with the board and the city is, so they've deemed us as an essential service. So we are allowed to still practice, but, of course, we have to take the certain measurements and protocol that they want us to keep in place, which is all the physical distancing. Um, so when it comes to a buyer right now who wants to buy, I would say that, definitely judge your situation, and see kind of how badly do you need to buy. What are your motives for buying? Um, and if the product is there, and I think, obviously, a deal, you can always get a good deal, in any market. And so if the deal is there, and the timing works and everything works, then yes. But at the same time, obviously, have your agent, you know, do the social distancing measures. You have to be okay with also maybe buying the place through a virtual showing, right? So, and that's hard because I think real estate's also it's a very intimate, sentimental kind of process, and you want to be there and see what you're buying. So that's the tough part of it.
How does something like a virtual showing work?
Yeah, so basically, there's a few ways, actually. I mean, I know there's lots of companies that offer 360, kind of like a Matterport, or they can do a 360 video beforehand of the property, which is more of a marketing strategy from that selling agent, and then they can send that to prospective buyers. Or, uh, the buying agent, myself, I could go to property for my buyer and just take like a video of the place and kind of really just walk through it, virtually. I can do a FaceTime call with them, so they can see it.
Are you finding people are somewhat comfortable with that, or I guess it was kind of what you're saying. Everyone's kind of pausing right now.
Uh, yeah, I think it all depends on the buyer, and their motives. Some people, I'd say some buyers are adapting, but then some are not so comfortable with it. You know, they really want to see the property at the end of the day before actually buying it, right? So
Is there anything else that you wanted to include or talk about? Any news going on in your world?
I think I think at the moment we're still seeing multiple offers on certain properties and their respective affordable price points. So cheaper properties like condos and stuff are still seeing demand. I had a colleague of mine who sold a property last week in the $2 million price range, which had over 50 groups and sold for $150,000 over the asking price with this whole virus going on. So that just gives you an idea of the demand that's still there despite everything going on. Yeah, so that's a good sign. And at the same time, I think that um, as agents, I think this one's an important one. But as agents, for example, we have to kind of still serve the public, meaning like we have a client who sold their house in February and they need to buy a house. So right now they're in limbo if they don't buy a house in the next 2 months.
I guess there's no real option for them, right? Because if they were to stay in, they'd be breaking or breaching the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and yeah, I always like to end with a quote. It can either be something original or a quote that you just really like. Do you happen to have one that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have a few quotes that I like. I'd say one quote I have is, or I always like to go by is like nothing worth having comes easy. Everything good obviously takes a lot of work and discipline and commitment over years and years and years. Um, so yeah, nothing's easy. I like that one a lot.
Right, preaches work ethic.
Yeah, it primarily focuses on having a good work ethic. Another one I like is we become what we think about. Um, is just mindset. Mindset's everything. Right now, there's two ways we can look at this whole situation. There's one that hey, there's an apocalypse and the world's going to end. And the other thing, which is what we should all think about, is that when this turns around, everything's going to be so great. We're going to look forward to all the sports, and everything's going to turn around, right? So
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some
yeah,
opportunity. Sure,
exactly. There'll be lots of opportunity, and everyone's going to be so happy, and it's just a matter of time. Like we're all going to get through this. So nothing lasts forever, right?
for sure. All right, well, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, man.